Now, to the video, and I'm not going to make this too long a one, but in respect to the situation here in the past, and again, I'm going to sound as though I'm contradicting myself, and yes, I am. At one point in time, both Nicole and I assisted individuals in whatever way we could if they were in a situation where their divine connection or their twin flame connection or their soul-to-soul connection was in jeopardy, and they were in a painful mode. They were in the emotional body pain, and it hurt and everything else, and the other person just didn't want anything to do with them. And if they asked us, we would assist in removing the etheric cords. Now, what I mean by etheric cords is in every relationship, irrespective of the title or whatever, whenever you connect with a person, eventually, sooner or later, you do get emotionally attached to the individual, and this happens very quickly and very deeply in these soul-to-soul connections. Now, I must also add that within a few years, and it could be less time, I'm told by sources, that this won't happen any longer because enough people will have gone through the process so that it can be templated through the rest of society in that perspective. So this is only a temporary situation while we're going through the learning curve. But in the meantime, we have assisted individuals by doing remote healing or remote connection with these individuals and actually going into the etheric body and severing or cutting these cords of attachment between the two people to release the pain, or the emotional pain of the situation. I have since come to the conclusion this is a bad idea. And at this particular point, I'm going to correct myself again, contradict myself, if some people want to call that, just to show you that I am growing. And I like to present information when it comes to me in that format. Nicole and I won't do it anymore. And the reason we won't do it in this particular perspective, because through our own growth, we have learned that if you get someone else either in a healing, in an actual hands-on healing, or someone who does remote healing, to remove these etheric cords between you and another person, especially in these intense connections, all you're going to do is attract to yourself another person who is going to repeat the pattern so that you yourself will ultimately release it. Now, there are going to be some people who are going to disagree with me, and they're going to say, well, I do remote healings, and I can go in and I can remove all kinds of dysfunctional patterns from the soul or the soul body or the soul energy. And yes, you can do that. You can remove it, but it's still there in the consciousness of the individual. So my feeling is that there are limitations that one should get involved with in doing this. And in this particular situation, in these tense connections between yourself and another person, for example, I don't believe this is a good idea. Removing dysfunctional patterns from an individual, again, that are through the person's own individual growth or spiritual awakening, I am definitely in agreement with doing that, but not when it involves another person. When it's an individual situation, if the person asks you or requests the information. And also, I wanted to mention in this video also that at one time Nicole and I used to participate, and we'll cover quite a bit of stuff here in this short video. Nicole and I experimented with actually doing remote healings. We stopped doing it because intuitively we started to get the impression with a great many people that when you tap into, and when you're an empath, and Nicole and I are very good empaths, we find out, with all due respect to everyone's out there, there are people who are spiritually awakening, but they tend to be lazy. They don't really want to do stuff if they can get someone else to do it for them. And this is where the remote healing comes into play. And we started discovering by working with quite a few of these people that they didn't really want to do the work themselves. They wanted to find someone else who could do it for them. And in reality, this is why we stopped doing it, because ethics came into play, and also a lot of integrity came into play, and we were not certain we were doing the correct thing anymore, so we stopped doing it. So the remote healing, in this particular perspective, is questionable from our perspective at this time as to its development, as to where it's going. Now, in regards to removing this from an individual who's in the pain body between another individual, I can make a suggestion here that if you're in that separation mode and it looks like it's going to be permanent, as opposed to getting someone to cut the cords or sever the cords or cut the connection with you, it would be, hang on a minute, I want to have a sip of my tea here. I have myself a nice cup of tea here. We've eliminated now the decaffeinated coffee even. Can't drink that anymore either. And now we're drinking tea. I never thought I would see the day when the Melvinator is drinking tea. But here we go. And I must admit it's good tea too. So anyways, what we are doing, what we've started doing the last little while, is we have been assisting people who are in the pain body because I find, here's something rather interesting, I find with a lot of people who are in that pain situation is what they're trying to do is they're trying to stop thinking of the person or stop connecting with the person or stop the etheric connection, or they don't want it to happen anymore, and it goes on. And I'm gonna say something here that please take it in the right context when I say it. I find that the greater pain that the person is in the separation of the connection between the two individuals, the more I find that the person has control issues themselves, in that somewhere in there, there's a belief system that they themselves really want to be in control of this situation. They want that connection to the other individual. Yes, they've read all the information. Yes, they know all of that. Yes, they can speak all of the words. But I'm finding out they really are in pain because really what they want, bottom line, with no exception, is they want that other person there with them in some sort of a traditional relationship or some sort of traditional thing. And this aggravates the pain in the emotional body even more. And at that particular point, they're constantly visualizing or thinking or connecting with the other individual, or the other individual is connecting with them in the etheric realm, all kinds of stuff going on. So rather than have someone cut the cords and actually end the pain temporarily, short term, I might add, and then you're going to actually repeat the pattern with another person, and you're going to go through it all over again. And the reason, this is one of the reasons why I'm doing the video, is because I've actually seen that happen on several occasions, where a person will actually have someone, or has told us they've had someone cut the cords, and they're cut between the two individuals. And then within a few weeks or a few months, they feel a short release or a short period of respite, if you want to call it that, and then it goes right back into another person, repeats the same process, almost with the identical situations and the same kind of connections or belief systems going on between the two of them, and it's right back at it again. So it's coming down to the situation here where most of the people who are awakening are starting to understand that it's all about you. It's all about you working with you individually and you making the corrections within yourself that you need to make. Yes, you can have someone help you make the corrections you need by getting some guidance. Yes, you can get people who can offer you some tools to do that. But ultimately, it comes down to you. You have to do it. And I have found, and again, I hope this doesn't upset anyone, that I found that the people who are in the worst pain usually have a deeply ingrained belief system of wanting to control that situation of where they think it goes. And I've seen this a great many times. And the person literally goes through agony in this particular situation, because when it comes right down to it, they want what they want and they want it to go where they want it to go. And usually, in a lot of cases, I've found this too, it's because previously, and here's the sad part, and this is one of the reasons, folks, why I did the first two videos that I did on this, I can't even remember the title myself now, the last two that I did, part 1 and 2. And this is the reason. Because somewhere along the line, they have spent time on YouTube or the internet, they've read a lot of twin flame information, and they've heard the expression, you can only have one, all right? And it's a perfect match between only the one. No one can ever replace that one. So that assists in actually enhancing that particular belief system, and making it even worse for the individual in question. This is why I'm saying to you, is the twin flame connection, the soul to soul connection, the soulmate connection, all of the labels are still going through an ongoing process of evolution. It's changing, it's evolving. What was 3 or 4 years ago is no longer applicable. It's only applicable to some of the individuals who are waking up and can handle that much information. The other thing that I wanted to mention here just for the moment is a couple of people have suggested, and I've actually done it in the past, and I'm not going to do it anymore. I have taken down off of my YouTube site videos that I thought were redundant because they didn't fit anymore, as they were kind of out of place because they didn't fit where people are right now. One of the things that I can say, and people can say I'm coming from a place of ego if they want, is I'm tuned in to the twin flame consciousness, the soul-to-soul connection consciousness. I get a lot of upfront, cutting-edge information before a lot of other people do. In spite of the fact that some of you think I'm an idiot, and I'm not humble, and I'm arrogant, and I'm cocky, why is it, if that's the case, that I get cutting-edge information if I'm such a dork, as some of you may think I am, and some people don't like me? The problem is I bring stuff that upsets people, pushes their buttons, and get them to take a look at themselves. And they don't want to take a look at themselves, so they take a look at me and start doing my inventory, or their inventory they think that they should say based on their belief system. This is about control, and this is the same thing that I see in these connections where the individuals are coming apart. So when it happens, rather than go to a healer or go to a remote healer and get them to remove the cords and then repeat the pattern all over again, I'm going to make a suggestion, and it's only a suggestion. No one has to follow anything that I say or do. All you have to do is consider this suggestion. Take this approach, and I've used this with other people, so I know it works, all right? Is if you're in a situation where you kind of like this connection to begin to wane, that means filter out gently and gradually, all right? Allow yourself time during the day. If you meditate, do it in a meditation, okay? If you don't meditate, sit down, close your eyes, reflect, and then just think or visualize about your presupposed partner, twin flame, soulmate, divine partnership, whatever the hell you want to call it, doesn't matter. Sit down and just think about. Now, when you think about that person, you're visualizing, you're seeing it. You cannot think without seeing, all right? And here's the something that people are not understanding. And we need to learn this on this planet, and we need to learn very quickly. I would say probably just about everyone in the spiritual community, in whatever avenue that there are now, are into a full open heart center awakening. The biggest problem that I find in the twin flame community, and every other community in the spiritual community for that matter, is we all have these magnificent heart centers, and none of us know what to do with it, basically. We really don't have an idea. All we've been doing with it up to this particular point is reacting to a connection that we feel with another person and think we're falling in love and there's a relationship of some kind pending. That's generally what we're doing. We have no other idea, and in some cases no other interest in doing anything with it and getting into relationships with other people in various forms and shapes. What is happening is the heart center opening is an energetic vortex that allows our creative source, soul, spirit, higher self, divine God, whatever you want to call it, to begin to express through us. We're in a learning curve, folks. Big changes are going to happen whether we like it or not. We have to learn that the imaginative faculty, which I've mentioned before in videos, and people just blew right by it, they didn't listen, probably because it was too far ahead of its time, all right? Because the imagination in actual aspect of this opening of the heart center has also been activated or vivified or accentuated to the 10th degree. So what happens now is when you're thinking and you're seeing and you're in misery and you're agony, you're seeing it, you're feeling it. Believe it or not, folks, you're creating more pain or more joy. The choice is yours. It's very friggin' simple. This is not rocket science. It's very simple. I'm very good at understanding the process, and that's what it's all about. We're going through a process. It's a process, all right? It's not a romantic fantasy. It's a process that's going to take us to very stable, very balanced, very fulfilling, very satisfying, very sensual relationships of the future. But it all comes down to a process. And we're in this big learning curve of understanding the process. What I find is we got a lot of people talking about the labels and not enough people talking about the process. And I'm your go-to guy for process. I know how it works because I've spent 20 years with Nicole going through it, and I'm still understanding the process as I'm going on. And I am more than willing to help people individually through contact with me or whatever, or by doing it on YouTube videos. I'm not cheap with the information that I put out. I'm helpful in every video that I put out, whether people understand it or not. So if you're in a situation where you're trying to release or let go of the pain situation between you and another person, sit down, relax, do a meditation, allow yourself about 5 minutes, and say to yourself, I'm going to think about my other half, if they want to use that expression, for nothing but 5 minutes. I'm just going to go to him or her. I'm going to blend with them. I'm going to merge with them. I'm going to have a sensual sexual experience with them. I'm just going to be with them, and I don't care about anything else. All right? What happens then, tea time, what happens then, hold thought. Wonderful. What happens then is you've made that energetic connection through the heart center chakra, which is a creative force. So what happens is you cannot stay down in the emotional body, the solar plexus, all right? Like I said before, we're transitioning from the controlling factor of the emotional body, okay, that creates the pain because people want to go back and fall into the old emotional relationship concept and not get into the new heart center relationship concept, which is a soul-to-soul connection. How much more simple can I make this? But then again, you've got people that go out there and complicate a peanut butter sandwich, like so many do on YouTube. That's what they do. We got to turn it into a complicated scenario and turn it into the old emotional romance and fantasy and the rest of it. Let me emphasize, everyone at this point is capable, with knowledge, with input, and gaining experience in experiencing a balanced union relationship with another person, if not one, with another person later on, at a perfect soul-to-soul match, vibrationally, all right? So, if you do that for 5 minutes, you do nothing but think about, feel the person, open the heart to the person, what will happen, it will change the energy flow in the body from the solar plexus chakra to being oriented and balanced more in the heart center. So what will happen is you will feel differently. You will feel as though you're connected with that other person. It doesn't mean that the other person is not still going to be 5,000 miles away or in the next house next door, whatever. It doesn't matter. The connection is still going to be there. But you've reestablished it up into the heart center chakra. It's no longer being controlled by you in the emotional center. And let me describe the emotional center for a moment. The emotional center is where you live, but you live there at about the age of, it varies from person to person, something like a 11 or 12-year-old child. An 11 and 12-year-old child is somewhere between being a kid and an adult. And at that level in the emotional chakra, you tend to be very irrational at times, very explosive, very controlling, and you can have temper tantrums. And what happens is that's the old basis or the benchmark that our relationships were made before. And I've repeated this, I'm going to repeat it again. We're evolving beyond the emotional experience of love, relationship, and sexuality. We're moving up to the heart. But it's my job to help you to get up to the heart, to understand how to use the heart, and then stabilize it so you can continue on and grow. So you've done that for 5 minutes. Stop. Just go on with your day. Initially, you may have to do this 5-minute exercise 3, 4, or 5 times a day. Then gradually, it will begin to wane. You'll only need to do it 3 times, maybe 2 times, and then maybe only once. And then gradually, it'll disappear altogether. You cannot make the pain go away like that. It's not going to happen, folks. You're living in a fantasy world if that's what you think. That's why cutting the cords and having someone cut the cords etherically or remotely, or even physically cutting the cords for you, is about as useless as tits on a bull. It's not going to work, all right? You're just going to recreate the same pattern with another person. And the reason being is as long as you have people who believe that love and happiness is dependent upon another person, you have a person who is deeply ingrained in a belief system, and they have to have control of that belief system, and the emotional center, the little girl, little boy inside grabs onto that and say, this is what I want, and if you don't give me what I want, I'm going to make your friggin' life miserable. And this is what this part does. So it's kind of like, if you look in the, this is like the wailing and the gnashing of teeth, all right, as we move from one level of understanding to the other. So the thing is if you do this on a gradual basis, it will begin to wane. It may take a week, it may take a month, it may take 2 or 3 months, but it will happen. Once it's happened, what's happened then, and what's been eliminated is, first of all, the little boy or the little girl living in the solar plexus chakra has come to understand that he or she is not in control. The whole of the process is now being facilitated by the higher self, which is the connection to the soul, or the higher self, the divine God, whatever you want to call it, all right? That you're now going to be living up here instead of here in the belly. So once you decide to live up here, then you have to learn the language of the heart. What does the language of the heart say? The language of the heart said you need to develop, first of all, a new personality. The new personality must have integrity, honesty, sincerity, compassionate, nurturing, loving, all of these wonderful compassion, all of these attributes. And what happens is, then, when you get to this particular point, what happens is some of the aspects of the emotional body, which can be sadness, melancholy, negativity, depression, anger, all of this stuff, can be mellowed. And what do I mean by mellowed? Again, I'm going to repeat myself from previous video. Because you're now focused up here and you're stabilizing here to the heart-to-heart center connection with yourself, all right, by making peace with the other person that you were wanting to control through a belief system to get into that connection or relationship with you based on the input of the twin flame information that you swallowed, digested, and incorporated as a belief system. This is what has happened to the multitudes here, and a great many people. Then what happens is you begin to assimilate upward a lot of the energy of the solar plexus or the little girl, the little boy inside, and you can begin to express sadness, depression, anger even, and a whole lot of these other emotions, but not here anymore. They begin to express here, but they're different. They feel different when they come out. People say to me, gee, I feel angry, but it's different. It feels like I'm expressing it from up here. It's almost like those old, antiquated emotions and feelings that we've been living with for literally thousands of years and generations after generations after generations after generation, which have been downloaded into our etheric bodies, which have been downloaded into our DNA, which have been downloaded into our sheath bodies and our etheric body, is now being transferred upward into the heart center chakra. And this is a process. It is a process of evolution that is taking place. And it's not freaking going to happen overnight. There's going to be some lumps and bumps and pains along the way. People are not understanding this. All they want is the bubble love, the romance and the love and the fantasy. And that's what is causing the problem, because you can have all of that, but not from the emotional center anymore, from here. But first, the old template or belief system has to be modified, templated, and raised in vibration. This is what's taking place. So gradually, as you think of this, it begins to wane. And suddenly what happens is you begin to draw to yourself, once you've let go of the pain through the visual exercise that I've given you over a gradual period of time. The connection between you and the other person begins to fade. You don't feel it anymore. It's less and less. And then suddenly it's gone. And you say, well, geez, was this person ever my twin flame soulmate, divine partnership, or sacred relationships according to what everybody says? Yes, it was a soul-to-soul connection. But that soul connection now has been terminated. Now, you don't have to repeat the pattern because you've corrected the imbalances that were in yourself. And now you're emanating a new vibration, a new energy from the heart center because you're more stable there. And what happens is you attract to yourself a new vibrational pitch at a soul-to-soul level because you have grown, you've changed, you've evolved. You now understand the process a little bit of what's going on. you attract another person. And guess what happens? Son of a gun. Wow, it's even stronger than the one before, and it's a perfect friggin' match because you've done all of that stuff that you needed to do because you listened to the Melvinator on YouTube and you understood what he was saying. And what happened was you progressed, all right? So you attract that person to you. So a new person comes in. Yes, there's still growth, but growth is perpetual, folks. You can't stay and sit on a step, on a staircase indefinitely. You keep going up or you go down. It's your choice, but you can't sit on a step. Motion is going one way or the other. Motion doesn't stop moving. Look at yourself as an individual. You come into the world, you're in motion for the time you go, all right? People say, well, what about when we're sleeping? Even when you're sleeping, you're in motion, all right? The body moves during the night and you're traveling. You're going to school, you're in the astral planes, you're in the dream state, whatever. It is perpetual motion. There's no such thing as sitting on the step somewhere on the staircase and doing nothing. You're either going up or you're going down. Choice is yours. But the information is there for you. So if you do this, the next person that comes along, you say, wow, this is even better than the one before. Why is that? It is because you've changed and grown and evolved. You're now more stable up here, so the other person coming towards you has to be more stable. So you've moved up in vibration. You get a perfect match. And what happens is, if the other person is growing as quickly and as clearly as you are, in that perfectly match that you are, it doesn't have to be perfect or reasonably close will do. You could stay together for years, months. You could stay together for a whole lifetime. It's depending. From now on and coming into the future, there will be no such thing as relationships where one person is growing and one person is not. When they actually do come together, they will be, in a great many cases, long-term. Why long-term? Because they're ongoing, upgoing, and growing relationships at a very high spiritual union, constantly compatible with each other, exchanging nurturing energies, compassionate energy, intense sexual energy between the two individuals. It's a thing of beauty that will unfold for people, but we're not there yet. We're in a learning curve. A few twin flames have actually gotten to the point where they've mastered some of it and understand it a great deal, and this is where we're going. I find with a lot of people, we don't understand the process. We understand the labels and the definitions and the meanings of what the labels attain to, but the most important thing on the agenda right now, this turned into a short video that went long because I got on a ramble here and I'm into it, but that's okay. Some of you will listen to all of it. Some of you will get bored after 10 minutes and say, I'm gone. Okay, well, that's your loss, not mine. Anyway, as I was saying, all of this will turn into a experience where relationships on our planet, you won't see them coming together in the way that they were in the past. You won't need all of the paperwork. You won't need all of the legalities. You won't need separation arrangement. People will come together because they vibrate together and they continually stay in motion as they go up. There won't be the imbalances. One of the things that I've learned, and just as I end the video here, one of the things that I've learned in talking to a lot of people, and I talk to a lot of people during the course of a week, and so does Nicole, is we have found that in the biggest majority, their old relationships that they were in or have fallen apart were based on the old emotional experience of love relationship and sexuality. And that's what they lived. It's when they no longer believed in it and no longer were part of it that their relationship had to end. So the potential for them to move into a new relationship which coexists with another at a perfect balance of union without the control, the manipulation, and anything else going on, of equal nurturing and exchanging back and forth between each other, is the way of the future. Our society will be built on it when we get there, and we will get there. What will happen is we will have a society in a much different state that it's in now. We'll have a society with even more creative people than what we have now, who are stable in the environment, and the children that they raise, by definition, will be even more crucially creative than what we've seen in past generation. And I want to make this final situation here, this final comment just in this video. There are a great many of you out there who think that twin flames are the latest thing since sliced bread on the planet. Being a twin flame myself and being in a twin flame union, I've been in it for 20 years. I've seen it all. I've heard it all. But I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this to everyone. The focus in the coming months and years will not be on the twin flame template or the twin flame belief system. The actual focus will be on the two individuals that come together under the process that I've described, forming what I call a relationship of the general population, people you will see in the burbs, people you will see in the cities, people you will see who are doing all kinds of jobs, careers, and whatever else in every segment of society. Call them soulmates, if you will. That's what I'm going to call them. I'm going to call them soulmates, but in a unified field of energy, in a unified field of a relationship, and they're going to be the dominant spiritual connection on the planet in the coming months and years. How about that one? All right. Twin flames will be there as a minute minority, a very minute minority, and soulmates in actual complete unified harmony will be the dictators of our society in the creative way it's going. A little bit of a long video. What can I say? It happens. Started out to be only a 10-minute one. Anyways, I enjoyed doing it and I feel very good about it. Have a great day, everyone.